They didn't want you there, my dad said about the family vacation I was excluded from. I send you $2,500 a month and this is how you treat me? I replied. So, I cut off every dollar and blocked them forever. I had no clue what to anticipate when I realized my entire family had taken a trip without me. Bewilderment, pain, frustration, all of it crashed over me at once, but none of that compared to what followed. It all began when my younger brother Frank uploaded a picture on Instagram. My entire family, my parents, siblings, and even my cousins were gathered on a stunning sunlit beach, all beaming drinks in hand. The caption read, "Well-deserved family retreat." Family. I fixated on that word, reading it repeatedly, hoping to see my name somewhere in the comments. Perhaps a playful remark about how I had to stay behind for work, or a note saying I'd be joining them soon, but there was nothing. I kept scrolling, my heartbeat accelerating as I saw more posts. Photos of them staying at an upscale resort, dining at elegant restaurants, embarking on boat excursions. I checked my messages, my inbox, no invitation, no notification, just complete silence. That's when I dialed my dad's number. He answered after only 2 rings. "Hey, kid," he greeted, sounding completely normal as though he hadn't just been caught in the act. I cut straight to the point. "Where are you all?" A brief hesitation. Then, "On vacation." My jaw tightened. "Without me?" He let out a sigh as if I was being the unreasonable one. "Well, we figured you wouldn't be interested in coming." I exhaled sharply. "You assumed I wouldn't want to come." My voice was edged with disbelief. "Are you serious? You've been planning this getaway for months. I send you money every single month to help out and you didn't even bother to ask if I wanted to be included." Another silence. Then, the words that changed everything. "We didn't want you there." My breath hitched. "What? You're always occupied, always working." He responded, his tone unnervingly indifferent. "Honestly, you just bring the energy down." He said it like I was some distant acquaintance who had tried to tag along uninvited. "We thought it would be best this way." I didn't even realize how hard I was gripping my phone until my knuckles ached. "I send you $2,500 every single month," I stated slowly, trying to keep my voice level. "I pay your bills. I've covered emergencies. I've helped clear debts, and this is what you decided? Don't make this a big deal." He mumbled, "You wouldn't have had fun anyway." I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I just ended the call. One firm final click. I sat there motionless, my entire body numb, staring at my screen. And at that moment, I made a decision. They were on their own from now on. I had no idea how long I stayed like that after hanging up. Minutes, maybe even hours. My dad's words looping in my head. "We didn't want you there." This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an oversight. It was intentional. A conscious choice, and I was done. That night, I logged into my banking account and began making adjustments. First, I canceled the recurring transfers. No more $2,500 a month, no more safety cushion. Then, I reviewed the shared account I had with my parents, the one I had been steadily depositing money into 4 family emergencies. The balance was nearly drained. Of course, it was. I withdrew what little was left and moved it to my personal account. And then, I did something I should have done ages ago. I cut them off. Blocked my dad, blocked my mom, blocked my siblings. For the first time in years, I was no longer their financial lifeline. And when I finally laid down that night, I felt something unfamiliar. Relief. The next day, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Even though I had cut off my immediate family, I hadn't blocked everyone else. Messages kept flooding in from distant relatives, old family friends, and people I hadn't spoken to in what felt like forever. The first message I opened came from my aunt. "Hey, your mom just called me sobbing. What's going on? She says you're refusing to support them anymore." The next was from my cousin Nancy. "Wait, did you actually cut off your parents? What happened?" And then came the guilt tripping. "You're being unbelievably selfish. They gave you everything when you were a kid and this is how you treat them." But there was one message that stood out among the rest. It was from an unknown number. "You really think you can just walk away from us after everything we've done for you? You're pathetic. Hope you enjoy being alone." I immediately recognized who had sent it. My father. I stared at the words, feeling absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness, just pure exhaustion. There were no apologies, no acknowledgement of their actions. They weren't upset because they had hurt me. They were upset because they had lost their personal bank. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care. I put my phone down and went to make myself breakfast. They could shout as much as they wanted. They could plead, manipulate, or throw insults my way. It wouldn't change anything. I wasn't going back. For once, they were going to learn what it meant to live without my support. But the quiet didn't last long. By the afternoon, someone was banging loudly on my door. I checked the peephole. My sister Barbara. I considered pretending I wasn't home, but I knew she wouldn't just leave. With a deep breath, I opened the door. She barged in without waiting for permission. What the hell, Samuel? I folded my arms. What? She spun around, her eyes burning with frustration. Mom's been crying all morning and Dad is furious. They said you just abandoned them out of nowhere. I let out a short dry laugh. Out of nowhere? You mean like how they went on vacation without even telling me? Like how they decided they didn't want me there? Barbara's lips parted slightly, but no words came out. I shook my head. They've been using me for years, Barbara. I've been paying their bills, covering their debts, and giving them whatever they needed. And in return, they act like I don't exist unless they need money. She swallowed hard. It's not like that, isn't it? I interrupted. Tell me the truth, Barbara. Did they ever mention me on the trip? Did anyone even ask why I wasn't there? Her silence said everything. I let out a slow breath. I'm done. Her expression softened. But they need you. I raised a hand. Numb. They need my money, not me. And if they don't respect me, they don't get my help. It's that simple. She ran a hand through her hair, looking frustrated. Samuel, they're our parents. We can't just abandon them. I held her gaze. Then you take care of them. She blinked. What? You heard me. If you think they deserve financial support so badly, then you start covering their expenses. Let's see how long you last before they drain you dry. Barbara bit her lip, suddenly staring at the floor. Yeah, that's what I thought. She turned toward the door but hesitated before leaving. They're not going to stop, you know. I leaned against the wall. Neither will I. Without another word, she walked out. I locked the door behind her, and for the first time in a long while I smiled. Let them try. I wasn't giving in this time. I had assumed cutting them off would be the end of it, that they'd throw their tantrum, realize I wasn't changing my mind, and eventually let it go. I was wrong. The following morning, my boss called me into his office. Samuel, got a second? His voice was completely unreadable. I stepped inside, an uneasy knot forming in my stomach. Yeah, what's going on? He sighed, rubbing his forehead. This morning, I received a strange phone call from your mother. My stomach twisted. You've got to be joking. I wish I were, he replied, leaning forward. She claimed you were experiencing some kind of emotional crisis and needed time off. Said you were making hasty financial decisions that you'd end up regretting. I clenched my teeth. Of course, the moment guilt-tripping failed, they resorted to trying to sabotage me. I told her that your private affairs are none of my concern. He went on, watching me closely, but I still have to ask. Are you okay? I inhaled deeply. I'm fine. I just stopped giving my parents financial support and they're furious about it. He let out a low whistle. That makes sense now. I nodded. Sorry they dragged you into this. He waved a hand dismissively. Not your fault. But Samuel, if they try this again, inform me. I don't tolerate harassment even if it comes from relatives. Leaving his office, frustration burned inside me. They were getting desperate. Good. Back at my desk, I checked my phone. 17 missed calls and a single text from my mother. If you refuse to respond, we'll have no choice but to get the entire family involved. I slowly exhaled. They still believed they could pressure me into submission. I was about to prove them completely wrong. By the time I arrived home that evening, my phone had turned into a battlefield. More missed calls, more texts. My voicemail had reached its limit. I scrolled through the messages, shaking my head. Mom, we don't understand why you're doing this to us. Dad, enough of this foolishness. Call me now. Barbara, they're considering selling things just to survive. Are you really okay with that? Uncle Dennis, Samuel, your mother called me in tears. Can't you at least talk to her? Cousin Nancy. Dude, what's happening? Your parents claim you're punishing them for absolutely no reason. I actually laughed at that one. No reason? I kept scrolling. Mom, your father and I are struggling. If you had any compassion, you'd help us. We are your parents. Dad, you're acting like a selfish child. After all we've done for you, you owe us. And there it was. They weren't upset because they cared about me. They weren't interested in fixing things. They were outraged because in their minds I was financially obligated to them. For years I had bent over backward, covering their expenses, rescuing them from bad decisions, providing for them whenever they needed help. And yet they had the audacity to act as though I was the ungrateful one. I tossed my phone onto the table, rubbing my face. They still didn't get it. They still believed I was bluffing, that if they pushed hard enough, I'd fold, just like every other time. I had to make one thing absolutely clear. I wasn't coming back. I picked up my phone and started typing. Me. I don't owe you anything. I pressed send. Then I added another message. Me. I financially supported you for years. You deliberately excluded me from a family vacation and didn't even have the decency to be honest about it. That told me everything I needed to know. You only acknowledge me when I'm footing the bill. That stops today. I hesitated for just a moment before sending one final message. Me. Find someone else to fund your lifestyle. I'm done. Then I blocked them. Blocked my mother, blocked my father, blocked Barbara, blocked every single person who thought they could manipulate me back into submission. And the second I did, something unexpected happened. I let out a breath, one I hadn't realized I'd been holding for years. No more obligations. No more guilt. No more sacrificing my own well-being for people who saw me as nothing more than an endless supply of money. For the very first time in what felt like forever, I experienced true liberation. For the first time in years, my bank balance remained untouched at month's end. No sudden deductions, no last-minute pleas for a little more, no mysterious transactions I barely recalled approving. It was entirely mine. Initially, I assumed I would feel remorse. That ingrained instinct to worry about my parents, their finances, and whether they had enough to manage. It had been drilled into me, but after a few days of complete silence, something became strikingly evident. They weren't destitute. They weren't starving. They were simply inconvenienced. That realization ignited an anger I hadn't known I possessed. For years, I had put my own aspirations on the back burner, sacrificing my own desires, passing up opportunities I wanted, also they could maintain their comfortable lifestyle. And the instant I stopped, the moment they had to budget like responsible adults, they threw a fit. They had never needed me, they had merely preferred using me. And now that their endless financial stream had dried up, they were scrambling. The first week was eerily quiet. By the second week, my phone started lighting up again, but now from unfamiliar numbers. No caller ID, voicemail, another unknown number, another voicemail. They had begun using different phones. Curious, I finally played one of the messages. My mother's voice came through, thick with artificial concern. "Samuel, sweetheart, we haven't heard from you. I just wanted to check in and see if you're all right. Maybe we can sit down and discuss everything. Please call me back, honey. We miss you." I nearly burst into laughter. "We miss you." No. They missed their human piggy bank. Without hesitation, I erased the voicemail and ignored the rest. But then, later that night, I received a text from an actual friend. Carl. "Hey, bro, your mom just hit me up on Facebook. Everything okay with you?" I frowned. They were involving my friends now? Me. What did she say? Seconds later, a screenshot appeared on my screen. "Mom, Carl. I truly hate to bother you like this, but I'm really worried about Samuel. He's been acting differently, cutting off family, making reckless decisions. We're afraid he's struggling emotionally and isolating himself. If you hear from him, please reach out. We just want to help." I read the message, my hands clenching into fists. They weren't just trying to guilt-trip me, they were trying to convince people I was unstable. I immediately called Carl. Before I could even say a word, he spoke first. "Dude, don't worry. I don't believe any of it. I just figured you should know." I exhaled slowly. "Thanks, man. They're just angry I cut them off financially." Carl let out a short laugh. "Yeah, I kind of figured. Just wanted to check in." We talked for a bit, and after hanging up, I sat there for a long time deep in thought. My parents weren't struggling. They weren't in trouble. They were manipulative. And this was their final tactic. If they couldn't intimidate me into giving them more money, they'd try to shame me into it. They'd attempt to turn my friends against me, paint me as the villain. That was the final straw. If they wanted to play dirty, fine. They had no idea what was coming next. I knew they wouldn't stop. Not until I made it impossible for them to keep pulling these schemes. So I did something I had never done before. I told everyone the truth. I started with a simple post on Facebook. No drama, no emotional outbursts, just the cold, unfiltered facts. "Hey everyone, just to clear up any misunderstandings, I'm not having a breakdown. I haven't abandoned my family. I've simply stopped financially supporting my parents. For years, I covered their bills, paid off their debts, and handled their expenses while they lived comfortably. In return, they left me out of family vacations, dismissed me, and only reached out when they needed something. Now that I've cut them off financially, they're telling people I'm unstable. If you hear that from them, now you know the truth. Thanks." I pressed post and leaned back. Within moments, the responses flooded in. Comments, messages, people reaching out. Some were shocked. Others were absolutely livid on my behalf. "Cousin Nancy, wait. They took a trip without you but used your money? Uncle Dennis, son? I had no idea. You did the right thing. Don't let them guilt-trip you. Aunt Ashley, wow. I can't believe they're trying to twist this to make you look bad. That's disgusting." And then, the most satisfying part, people began calling them out. My uncle didn't hold back. He outright posted, "How can you claim to be struggling when Samuel was providing you with $2,000 to $2,500 each month? That's more than what some people even pay for their rent." Another cousin jumped in. "You had no issue spending his money before. But now that the cash flow has stopped, suddenly it's a problem. The carefully crafted illusion they had been spinning was slipping right through their fingers, and I knew they were absolutely losing their minds watching everything unravel. It didn't take long before my sister, Barbara, sent me a message. Barbara, are you seriously putting our family's private matters all over social media? Me? I'm not exposing anything. I'm just correcting the lies our parents have been spreading. Barbara, this is humiliating for them. Me? Maybe they should have thought about that before attempting to paint me as unstable. Silence. Yeah, just what I expected. I could practically imagine the chaos erupting on their end, but I wasn't finished yet. Since they wanted to drag other people into this situation, I had one last move to make. I picked up my phone and dialed my parents' landlord. It was time for them to understand what life without my financial support truly looked like. After a few rings he picked up. Hey, Mr. Ryan, it's Samuel. A brief pause. Samuel, is everything all right? I took a slow breath. Yeah, just wanted to give you a heads up. I will no longer be covering my parents' rent. Any previous arrangements we had? Consider them over. There was silence, followed by a low chuckle. Well, I figured this day would eventually arrive. That caught me off guard. What do you mean? Mr. Ryan sighed. Your parents have been behind on rent quite a few times over the years. Every time they would just tell me, oh, don't worry, our son will handle it. They treated it like some magical safety net. My jaw tightened. Of course, they did. Well, I said, they're on their own now. He exhaled sharply. Understood. I'll expect their payment to arrive on time next month. If they fail to provide it, well, that's their issue now. We wrapped up the call and I hung up feeling something close to satisfaction. This was it. No more easy ways out. No more relying on me to fix their messes. Reality was about to hit them hard. And me? I was finally free. It didn't even take a full day for the panic to set in. The first sign? My mother showing up at my apartment. I was halfway through dinner when the knocking started. Loud, rapid, desperate. I checked the peephole. There she was, shifting uneasily from foot to foot, gripping her phone tightly. I thought about ignoring her, letting her stand outside and stew in the situation she had created, but curiosity won. I wanted to hear what excuse she would come up with this time. I pulled open the door but made no effort to step aside. What do you want? Her eyes were swollen, her face puffy like she had been crying for hours. Samuel, please, we talk? I folded my arms across my chest. Talk about what? She swallowed hard. Mr. Ryan called and there it was. He said you told him you're no longer paying the rent. Her voice trembled, like she was struggling to accept that this was actually happening. I shrugged. Yeah. I told you. I'm done. Tears welled up in her eyes. Samuel, we need you. Numb. I said, my tone unwavering. You need my money. She winced. We raised you. We took care of you. And now when we're the ones who need support, you're turning your back on us. A sharp, humorless laugh escaped my lips. You didn't seem to need me when you planned that getaway, or when you outright told me I wasn't invited. Her mouth opened, then snapped shut, words failing her. So I kept going. You had no problem burning through my money when it suited you. But now, that you actually have to handle your own responsibilities, suddenly it's a catastrophe? I shook my head. I'm done being your safety net. Tears streamed down her face. So you're just going to sit back and watch us struggle? I met her gaze without wavering. You'll manage. Her breath hitched, shock freezing her in place, then her sorrow twisted into something else entirely, resentment. Her expression hardened. Fine, she snapped. If this is the person you've chosen to be, don't expect us to forgive you. I leaned casually against the doorframe, completely unmoved. Forgive me? For what? For setting limits? For taking control of my own life? I shook my head slowly. No, Mom? The only ones who need to ask for forgiveness are you and Dad. Her face contorted with fury, but she stayed silent because she knew I was right. I took a step back and shut the door in her face. For a moment, I stood still listening as her footsteps faded down the hall, and then I smiled because for the first time ever I had won. The fallout was swift. Within hours, my sister Barbara sent me a message. Barbara, Mom came home completely distraught. What did you say to her? Me, the truth. Barbara, you're being heartless. She's devastated. Me, she's upset because she lost control, not because she lost me. Silence. Then a message from my father. Short, cold, and to the point. Dad, you made your decision. Don't come crawling back when you regret it. I stared at the screen for a moment before finally replying. Me, I won't, and I meant it. They wanted me to feel guilty, to question my choices, to break under pressure and come running back with my wallet open, but that wasn't going to happen. Not anymore. Not ever. Days went by, then a week, then two. The silence stretched on, and you know what? It felt incredible. For the first time in years, My paycheck remained untouched. No sudden demands. No bottomless pit draining my finances. I could save. I could travel. I could finally focus on my future instead of sacrificing everything for theirs. I wasn't their personal bank. I wasn't their crutch. I was free. And if they never spoke to me again, that was their loss because I had finally learned the most important lesson of all. Family isn't about DNA. It's about mutual respect. And if they couldn't give me that, then they had no place in my life.